Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm working on the 2012 Toyota 4Runner and I have a 3-inch rough country lift for it. Here's the lift here. Have rear spacers, front spacers, hardware, and 2 shocks. Then here I have a spring compressor for doing the front shocks, coilover shocks. So that's what we have planned. Let's get to work. Got the tires off, and next step, they want you to remove the skid plate. 12 millimeters bolts just holding the skid plate on here. I actually think that's probably for the 4-wheel drive. I don't think we need to remove ours. So the first step says to remove the skid plate. This being 2-wheel drive doesn't have the second skid plate, so I don't think we need to do that. I'm gonna try to get away with not doing it. Next up, we need to remove the sway bar end link here, the tie rod, and we're gonna take this loose here for this brake line so that the brake line and this sensor wire doesn't get stretched and messed up. And then we'll take the upper ball joint loose while keeping the support underneath the lower control arm here, and then take our strut out, and then we can go ahead and replace the upper mount here with the new spacer. All right, first thing I need to do is get this outer control arm, first thing I need to do is get this outer tie rod loose. Got a cotter pin in it. Got a pair of pliers to get it out. Okay, so my cotter pin gave me some trouble, ended up breaking it. I'll have to replace that. And then the socket, it's a 19 millimeter. Castle nut. And then you just carefully want to hit the knuckle so that it releases. So let me show you that. All right. Next up, I'm going to take this sway bar loose. Just have a 17 millimeter wrench. Need a little pair of pliers to hold the back of that. All right, sway bar end link loose. Of course, that's so now I'm gonna start getting these top 3 nuts loose for the strut. Leave one of them just barely in, just so the strut doesn't fall out after I get everything else loose. Then next up will be get this upper control arm loose. This is a 14 millimeter. Not really, I don't think an easier way to get to it, maybe a shallow socket. I might be able to get to it. They're easy to take off by finger once you get them loose. Next up, I need to support the lower control arm here with the jack. And I have a little pin right here I need to take out. pin, 19mm. Whoops. Still have the nut on just a little bit to catch it, but I'm gonna hit that knuckle, see if I can get it loose. There we go. It feels like it has a lot of pressure, so I'm gonna support it a little bit more. Feels like it's about to drop on me. Let's see. So my nut, don't know where it went. All right, that all looks safe right there. I need to get the nut off of the strut here. All right, so bottom bolt is out of the shock here, strut assembly, whatever you want to call it. Got all 3 bolts up top out. So I think what I need to do is go unhook the sway bar from the other side so that'll swing down. Took the sway bar end link loose on the other side, and as you can see, now that moves. See if I can get this fell out now. It's still in the way. It's barely in the way. There we go. There we go. All right, let's see if we can get that spacer on here. Next up, have my strut assembly here, and this is our spacer. They give you studs that need to be installed. So they give you those studs and a jam nut, and then a nut to pull it down. So I'll show you that real quick. Okay, so you need to pull these studs in. Put that one in. They give you a bigger one. Oh, come on. Put over like that. Then a smaller one to use to pull it. Let's see if I can hold this thing. Got all my studs in, my new spacer here. Over here, I went ahead and marked the studs to the spring with a paint marker. I marked all 3 of them. And that way it aligns properly back in the vehicle when we go back to install it. Here I've got a couple of portable little spring compressors. Don't really care for these too much, but that's what I was able to get. It's a brand new set from AutoZone, that's a rental. So I'm gonna go ahead and strap those on, get this thing cinched down, swap out this spacer. All right, got a 7mm right there, 17 around the nut, and turns pretty easy. Okay, so you got a bushing for your shock right here, and then there's another one inside we need to get out. Okay, I have a punch with a little flat end on it. See if I can get this thing out. It looks like you don't even need to. Maybe. So both of these were in this. You just hit the rim. It's, you know, right around here, and hit that rim and it'll all fall out. It needs to go back on here. We also need to take this off, this isolator, and orientate it back to the spring. Got the isolator back on. Now I need to put this on and reference it to those marks that I made earlier. Looks like it's actually easier to put the isolator on here. So, little tip, when you mark where the studs go, mark the isolator too, because now I got to get it orientated as well to everything else. So give me a second for that, get this thing all orientated correctly. Okay, so I have this orientated properly. Still have to get this on. This is the bushing, shock bushing, and I'm gonna have to tighten down my coil spring compressors more. I don't have enough room to get the nut on there. Have the new assembly together, and they want you to put it in the same way it came out. So the same direction that the bottom bolt went through and all. See that sticker is facing the opposite way. On this side, the sticker was facing out. So that's how I'm gonna install it. Well, got the upper half in. For the top bolts, they want you to use theirs, not the factory ones. I'm gonna put one in it. It says use a 17mm wrench. It's actually a 15. Well, her being longer, it's harder to fit in that hole. Get that in there. We're almost there. Almost there. I actually need to tighten these up so it isn't dropping. Almost, almost, almost. think the orientation is off, just like a hair, giving me that trouble. So make sure you align this thing perfect whenever you put it back together. All right, I'm gonna tighten up the top ones, tighten up that bottom one. Got the bottom bolt tight, the top bolt's tight. Now I need to jack up the knuckle here so I can reattach the upper ball joint. All right, so I've jacked up the suspension as much as I can, and it's trying to pick the truck up off the jack stand. So went ahead and threw the other tire on just in case, just to make it stable. But I'll try to get this control arm into that knuckle. All right, now I need a nut. Little bit one, put the pin in. All right, got this little clip. Okay, so top castle nuts in with a, it's got the pin in it. Bottom one I've got started. Just need to tighten it up on this outer tie rod. Speed this up a little bit. And then I've got to find a cotter pin because I broke the last one. So I should have one in my toolbox. Okay, so this side, with the exception of the cotter pin, I couldn't find one in my toolbox, so I need to go to the store and get one. And then the sway bar is still disconnected because you can see there, it's this link is at a different level than the other side. So that needs to be reattached once the other side is done, but everything else is done. So got everything tight, and I'm gonna move on to the other side. This side took way longer than I expected. Took me about 2 hours. That's with filming, so hopefully the second side goes a lot faster. So I'm gonna knock out this side, and then I'll bring you guys back to do the rear. All right, so not having to film helped out a lot, and that I've already read the instructions and all that stuff. This side took 50 minutes compared to over 2 hours on the other side. Not bad. Went way smoother, way faster. You can see spacers right there. This side's done. I'm going to put tires on, clean up, and get to the back, get the back lifted up, and let's get going on that. Okay, so this is what we're looking like. We're getting close. The back, the instructions are like one page compared to multiple pages for the front. Looks like it's gonna be as easy as jacking it up, taking the tires off, taking the shocks off, popping the springs out, and then the spring spacers all back together. Should be pretty quick. Let's go. Okay, wheels are off. Need to remove upper shock bolt, lower shock bolt. I believe both are 17 millimeters. I do have the rear end held up with the jack there, And we're going to take the sway bar end links loose on both sides. Okay, factory shock at the bushing and the nut. I think we got all new hardware with the new shocks, except for the bottom bolt will be reused. I have shocks off on both sides. Next we need to get this 17mm off of the sway bar on both sides. Got to use a wrench because the muffler's on this side and fuel tank's on the other side, so you got to wrench it. All right, so the instructions say 12mm, take loose brake line. So there's brake lines up there. Need to take the little 12mm loose so that has room to flex. I did get my marker and mark the orientation of these springs, and then also on this side, can't really get the camera to it, but where the ABS sensor wires go up to the frame, take that one loose too. That way they don't break the wires. We'll go ahead and do that. Brake line and ABS line, our speed sensor line is disconnected. We drop this thing down now. See if we get these springs out. The instructions make it sound simple. It says just remove spring. I don't think it's going to be that easy. We'll see. Okay, getting it out, not so bad. Getting it back in, probably going to be a mess. Okay, so these go in and have a bolt that go through the top, a lock nut on the bottom. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get under there. Here's our spacer. I have to get under there, put a bolt through the top, and then nut in the washer, and then tighten her down. We got a washer for both sides. So a washer there, and there'll be another washer on the bottom. Here's where you have to fish the bolt through. I've just put it through this hole here. Sorry for the glare. And then dropped it in. So now I got to get my spacer up here, hold it up there and put the nut on, and then try to get a wrench on top of it to hold the bolt, and then run that nut up. All right, finally got both spacers in. That took, oh, it's dark right there. Took longer than expected. The bolts are a pain to get in. I got this one up in here, and it was at an angle hitting the frame, and then also hitting the body. So I got my pry bar and had to force it down into the hole. But anyway, it's in there. I'm gonna try to work on these springs now, get those in there. That's gonna be one of my biggest challenges, I believe. Get a friend to help you with this. Wasn't terrible. Let's try the other side. Okay, so now we got the pressure of the other spring pushing this side. Move that jack. Missed it. So that sway bar was actually stuck on something holding me up, so I was working harder than I needed to. Yep, sure was. Something that you now know that I didn't, so it'll be easier for you. Okay, gonna jack it back up, get these things get this thing wrapped up. Double check and make sure they're all in the pocket. Yep, perfectly centered. It's the spring is the exact same size as the new spacer. It's perfect. Okay, I have the rear end jacked up a little bit. Now that I have the stretch, I guess, out of the cables here, I can reattach them. I've got gotta find my bolt. There it is. So this little bolt goes through this line to keep it from, or to remount it to the frame there. That's for the ABS. I'll do the brake line on the other side. I have gone ahead and reattached the sway bar end links on both sides, and went ahead and got those wires together. The kit comes with this new shock. Should be longer than stock since we're lifting, and comes with new hardware. So I'll install washer, the bushing, and then this just slides on and uses the OEM bolt, and then I use their nut on top of this. Actually, bottom on first, then the top, because of the angle. So my bolt in the bottom, washer, bushing, nut, and lock nut. As it wants 7 or 18 foot-pounds, I believe. And of course, this is all in the way. Okay, I'm gonna do this shock different. I'm gonna leave the little band on him. Get him on first. Then my bolt. Okay, now a washer and a bushing, have it ready. Alright, here's that one. Washer, or sorry, bushing. Washer. And Okay, I believe I am done with everything, but I'm gonna do a once over, check all the bolts, clean up my stuff, put the wheels and tires on. Let's get it on the ground. Woo! Long weekend. Yesterday, hubs, brakes. Today, lift. The truck's looking awesome. I mean, it's a two-wheel drive, but man, that thing's looking good. It is on 265 70 17s. That lift will allow for 285s. I don't think it looks bad at all the way it is. Them tires are really good shape, so they'll probably just ride for a while unless I find some TRD wheels. But this is like I said, a 2012, 150,000 miles. She's looking good. I'm gonna take her for a ride. Do have to get a front end alignment. You can see it's towed in. Not towed in, cambered out, sorry, and towed in. Okay, that's it. That's gonna do it for today. As you can see, Mr. Jones and Big Red are still here. Updates on those soon, hopefully. In fact, right now, go ahead and tell you, Big Red hadn't been running right since the new engine went in. I did put a carburetor on it, didn't fix it. I believe the problem is I changed the lifters. I think those lifters are not any good. Have some valve lash in that thing. So I'm gonna change the lifters, see if that fixes it, and I'll bring you guys along for that. But yeah, looking good. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. See you next time.